This is a simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball. You got it?
Welcome to Episode 1 of the Marketing Cranks podcast, produced by the awesome team here at Heinz Marketing. I'm Robert Pease, and I'm joined by my very talented co-host, Brian Hansford.
Hello.
Our goal is to not only entertain you, but to educate you, and definitely appreciate you all taking the time to listen in. Brian, so why Marketing Cranks? Why are we doing this?
Robert, I think, you and I, we have a good time bantering quite a bit about everything that we see in marketing and in sales. And I think we bring a little bit of a unique viewpoint at times. We want to have some fun doing this, and we can be critical at times, but, we, given our, colorful backgrounds here and experience, thought that it'd be fun to share some of our ideas here and see if there'd be some value for listeners, and also get some feedback from listeners, see what they think.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So what we did is we went and stole Matt Heinz's microphone, and
The one and only,
and we are recording this. So you guys hopefully will enjoy our time together here. Okay, so as Brian had said, this is as much for us as it is for you all listening. We do have a lot of these conversations, and good or bad, we've seen a lot of things, and also we've done a lot of things, some good and some not so good.
All over.
Well, great. So, on to episode 1. We're going to call today's episode Back to Basics, right? And we thought that was a nice way to start because, again, this is episode 1, and if you don't know the basics, I guess you don't really know where you're going. So we're going to start somewhere, and this is where we're going to kick off. So, Brian, let's chat about what you think are the basics of B2B marketing today. So this is a very broad topic. So meaning any company, regardless of its size, or whether even it has a marketing team, should do these things at a minimum to grow their business.
So here's what we see quite a bit. People think that marketing, they have to start reacting and just start doing things, just activity. And I think it's madness if there's no thought, rhyme, or reason behind that. Basically, it's going to be a wasted effort. You're going to put your people put them in the wrong direction or point them in the wrong direction, potentially spend a lot of money poorly, and you're not going to get the results that you need to help grow your business. So I think back to basics, there's blocking and tackling, and we got a great sound clip here that I think is relevant right after the World Series, especially. Basics they're the fundamentals, and everything that we do with marketing, it's really important to just focus on those fundamentals. So for me, I have some really simple buckets on what I look at. Who are we trying to target? Who are we trying to engage with? That's everything from existing customers, prospective customers, influencers, even peers. It really depends. What's the goal? Don't just say have a broad unnamed target or vague audience of who you're trying to reach. And then what are your objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? Is it market share? Is it profitability? Is it revenue? What are your objectives on what you're trying to accomplish? And the why and the how. Why are we doing this, and how are we going to reach this audience, and how are we going to pull together as a team to do it? Now, it doesn't mean that has to be a monster effort, but I think it's just putting those simple questions out there and thinking about that. They're basics, but I got to tell you, we see a lot of companies that struggle with that just because I think they're always in a sense of panic versus what I would encourage more of a sense of intentional urgency. When you get in panic, you're reacting. You're not focused in the right areas. You're not giving anything a chance to actually deliver any results. And it's just madness. So I think back to basics, it's a great way to just continually operate. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, awesome points, and will definitely be made better by mine, but very thematic along the same line. So what you're saying, Brian, is that the first thing I should do if I run a business and I want to invest in marketing is I shouldn't just go out and buy a bunch of Google AdWord campaigns and run some pay-per-click stuff and think that the internet's going to basically bring me a bunch of customers.
Yeah, or, say something like, we have to get on the Twitter, or we have to get on the Facebook. Why? Why do you have to do that? Is that really where your audience engages? Does your audience going to engage with email even? Is it? Think about what you are doing. Don't just get caught up in the hype and the noise.
Yeah, or just jump to the tactics, right? We do see that quite a bit, where it's like, okay, I've already I think I've got it all figured out, so I'm just going to go ahead and get way tactical. And
yep.
So what I'm going to call my sort of back to basics pointers here, or the things that every company should do, very consistent with what Brian was saying. I think that out of the gate, you got to know who the heck you're trying to sell to, right? And again, I think that you have to think about it in terms of, marketing is your ability to acquire customers and generate revenue. Marketing's not just to see your name up in lights, unless that's somehow related to something you have going on. But think about it in that regard, right? One of my favorite sayings, right, is that marketing is essentially sales with a budget, and you have to kind of know that whole thing. But when I say know who you're trying to sell to, right, by name if possible, the actual company names you're trying to get into, or at a minimum, the attributes of someone who may have the problem you are trying to solve. That sounds extremely easy, but Brian, how many times when you walk into a project or help a client, is that actually really clear?
Very rarely, even for larger organizations that we work with on projects. Do companies have a pretty clear picture on who they're trying to sell to? Maybe something just as vague as, the IT department. Well, what does that mean? Well, we got to get to the IT director or the CIO. Well, everybody's trying to engage with them.
Right.
So what, I mean,
yeah, I think
let's drill into that a little bit more.
Yeah, no kidding, right? There's this level of specificity that I think is absent in a lot of places. So it's a good discipline to do. The second thing I have on my list is, and I totally am lifting this quote from somewhere, but that's okay, that's how I roll, plan the work and work the plan.
Yep.
And this is along the lines of understanding what your revenue goals are for your business. And so if your revenue goals are just to make more, that's very tough to measure to see if you're actually making progress towards that, and let alone align any kind of marketing effort with that. I mean,
more compared to what?
Right. We're big funnel people here at Heinz, and that's our logo, and that's everything else. Funnel meaning there's a certain amount of audience you're trying to attract. There's a certain amount of those that are going to begin to engage with you. There's a certain amount of those that are going to become potential customers, and there's a certain amount of those you're going to convert. And you have to do the math on that, and you have to kind of know where you're going. So if you've never gone through a structured planning process, it doesn't have to be totally painful, but think about 2017 is upon us pretty soon here, right? What is your revenue plan? What are your quarterly revenue goals? And then you can invest in marketing to reach those, to help them reach those. The third point I want to say here is about having something value added to say to these people that now you know who you're trying to target.
Yes.
And Brian, is value added always how my thing works, how my product works, how my service works, the excruciating details of exactly how I'm going to implement it at your company, and all the stuff I know so much better than you do?
No. Oh, my goodness, no. Absolutely not. In fact, that drives me nuts when I hear that. When all a sales rep or product marketing person or whoever talks about is them. Our product does this, our product has these features and functionalities, we're this great company. And quite honestly, within the first 5 seconds, I've already tuned out because they haven't demonstrated anything to me that they know anything about where I'm coming from, what the challenges are that I'm dealing with. Or they haven't even shown any interest in any problems that I may have. Ask me what my role is. Ask me what problems I'm trying to solve. It's pretty basic stuff, and I heard this one great quote from Dan Aykroyd in a movie that he was in. It's basically, interested is interesting. If you are interested in somebody and you want to understand what they're about and understand their story, and you show that what Ann Handley calls pathological empathy. If you show that empathy to somebody, you can develop a fantastic story that you can share with the people or the customers that you're trying to engage with that they can relate to. Just throwing features and functionality out and how great your company is and your latest round of funding and all this other stuff, that's boring.
Yeah. That's a good point. It leads actually very nicely, almost like we rehearsed this, which we didn't, into my fourth point, which is around being focused but patient and don't piss people off. Why shouldn't I piss off my targets, Brian?
Well, it's pretty simple. It's really easy to get into a level of noise with people that you're trying to engage with. And if you cross that threshold into noise, and you're annoying, you're overly persistent, maybe overly aggressive, you don't have any tact, there's no class. We've seen a lot of that. There's probably a full-on episode there.
Keeps us busy.
You piss people off, and if you try to re-engage with them, just emotionally, psychologically, your impression has already been set. To reset that impression is very, very, very difficult. So, you're dating to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, no, awesome point, right? I mean, and again, believe it or not, these actually all do sort of hinge together. If you know who you're trying to sell to, and you know the particular company names that you all want to become your customer, the last thing you want to do is to make a very negative impression, so they never give you the time of day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Even if the odds of somebody needing your thing or your service or your product the moment you engage for the first time, it's actually pretty low.
Pretty low. Yeah.
So how many things can I do to change that priority? Right?
Yeah.
Some, but in the whole, you have to kind of have a little bit of a longer view, and so I'm sort of the contrarian, I think, around using the word patience in a sales process, just because I think that, again, you've got to be focused on, again, your quarterly numbers and what you're trying to do and your metrics. But, man, at the end of the day, you can't just have this scorched earth sort of mindset, which is, if you don't take my meeting, then something's wrong with you versus something's wrong with me.
Yeah, and I think that gets into a little bit, or just circles back to what I was saying around sense of urgency versus sense of panic. Companies of any size, they may have a marketing effort that they want to kick off for whatever reasons, right? And marketing takes time. Getting the results, getting the engagement takes time. Filling a pipeline takes time. And chances are you're not going to generate thousands of marketing qualified leads with a single email. Or even 2 emails. I mean, this stuff takes time, and I think it's very hard for people in marketing and outside of marketing, definitely outside of marketing, to have that level of patience. There's somehow or another, there's this mindset that marketing delivers these instant results, and that's just not the case. It's a very long-term process.
Yeah, there's certainly things you can do to accelerate it. And I think we spend a lot of time helping companies get better at what they're already doing. But I agree with you. If it's a situation, having done this on both the side as an operator as well as a consultant here at Heinz, like if you're starting from dead stop, it's going to take some time, right? Just to get people to be aware of you and to get in the mix and have some good conversations going. And again, there is no one thing that you can do, right? Which kind of gets to the fifth point I have on my list. In terms of what needs to be the basics of any kind of marketing or any kind of marketing approach, and I like the notion of being curious, being intentional, and being fearless. Curious because you gotta constantly challenge assumptions around how to reach people, right? Print-based advertising in newspapers used to be extremely effective because there's no other way to consume content. Not saying it's not effective in some situations now, but you have to challenge yourself and think about the world differently and think about how people are consuming information or how they're going to find you. Or if, by God, you spend a bunch of money on a campaign and it is a complete disaster, and this gets to the last point on being fearless, right? You got to own it and you got to understand why. Yeah. That's hard to do sometimes, right?
It's hard to do, but hopefully there's some data that you can learn from and improve upon the next time.
Totally.
And if you make a mistake, that's okay, right? That's how you learn.
Yeah,
right?
Just don't make it unrecoverable, right?
Yeah,
don't take your entire budget and do one thing and then be in a situation where it didn't work and then you're angry.
Yeah.
And then intentional, to me, again, gets back to the plan, gets back to your audience, gets back to a lot of other things. I mean, if you think just writing a blog post and the world's going to come to you and fill your pipeline with all sorts of qualified opportunities is the way it's going to work. That's not. You have to be intentional, which is knowing where that fits in a broader schema to try to reach different types of people. So anyway, those are my five basics.
Those are great. Those are great.
Along with Brian's, you can see here we certainly, and this is also by design, we kind of have a shared perspective on these different types of things.
Yeah, we're cranks. But sometimes we can be pretty direct and blunt, and there's good and bad with that. But at the same time, we see so many challenges that marketers and business managers and executives are going through. We definitely have that unique perspective, and it's fun to see that. We can jab at it, but at the end of the day, we definitely want to help.
Right on. So this is going to bring our inaugural Episode 1 podcast to a close here.
This is great. I'm excited. This is fun.
Yeah, and we're going to tinker with how long these are. We've gone about 15 minutes this time. Brian and I could probably talk for hours on end, but I don't know that our audience would appreciate that as much as these smaller snippets.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna experiment with some topics. We maybe have guests. We're gonna try to make this a regular routine thing here at Heinz Marketing. We are very fortunate to work with a lot of awesome clients, and the team here is fantastic. And Brian and I want to try to channel that through our MarketingKranks podcast.
Yes.
So give us...
And send us your ideas. If you have ideas, if you have questions, if you have problems, if you have something you want to vent about even, or a case study or a situation, let us know, man. We'd love to share that, maybe share some ideas on how we might approach it, or even better, we'd like to see how you approach that challenge, and love to share that with our audience here. So we definitely want to get input from everybody, and we have a fantastic community of people that we engage with at Heinz Marketing. So we hope that you enjoy this, but we definitely would love some input.
Yeah. So Brian, tell the folks listening how they can get in touch with you.
So I would love to get an email from anybody that has any questions or anything that they want to talk about, share some ideas, talk about a problem or whatever, just to bounce some ideas. Even though I'm a consultant, I love to brainstorm. I love to break out the virtual whiteboard. So give me a shout via email, brian@heinzmarketing.com. And Robert, what about you?
I will offer the same invitation to anyone. Please do email me, robert@heinzmarketing.com. We'd love to hear from you and love to incorporate your feedback into the podcast, and we always love to receive email.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think we're going to be posting this through various channels. We'll have some blogs up on this and whatnot. Reach us on Twitter or anything. So lots of ways to reach us and send us some feedback, questions, whatever. So really appreciate, this is fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Thanks everyone for the time today.